Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show how to quickly set up or implement MVVM for a WPF project. So I'm going to start it from scratch. So let us see. Quick, oops, MVVM setup. You can use .NET Core or .NET Framework of any framework version, whatever it is. There we go. So I have a very basic vanilla project setup here. Let me first run. Okay, that's cool. What is MVVM? MVVM is nothing but a pattern, and it is called as M for model, V for view, and again VM for view model. So it's basically M, V, and the last is VM. What is the reason for setting up MVVM approach? Different people give different explanations, and if you take a look at most of the examples available in the articles and the blogs that are written, people always claim one reason, which is unit testing and separation of concern. These two are the topmost reasons people always use for setting up MVVM pattern. In my opinion, unit testing, yes, it is true, it helps unit testing, but I always find separation of concern is one of the most uh, desirable or beneficial benefit that we can reap from MVVM setup. So generally what we do when we set up any project is, let's say I add a small button, and let me add a height here, height 30 with 120. If you are from Windows form, so the most common, or we would have already been used to an approach like this. We add a button, and the button may have a name or a X name is equal to button 1, and we add another button, and we add directly the click values, and it goes into the code behind. When you open up the code behind, you find it, and whatever you want to do, like how you want to manipulate your view, you do it here. But the MVVM approach is, you do not put anything in your code behind. You move them all into a separate class or a separate service or a place. So that's what MVVM is all about. Now, people always strive hard to keep their MVVM very pure, not even putting any basic or anything on the code behind side. But I'm not supporting such things. In my opinion, in the projects that I always do, if there is some very minimal work that is totally related to the UI, I always try to put them inside my code behind, like drag moving the window itself. If I am preparing a borderless window and I want to just move it, I will not make myself make my life harder by just trying to move everything to the view model. I will always try to keep it simple. So the things that are only pertaining or only focusing on the UI side, I always try to put them inside my code behind. But that is not the discussion for this video. So this video is about showing you how to set up MVVM. So to get an idea what is an MVVM, if you don't put any of your logics in the code behind, so this is what I mean as code behind. You have a .xaml file, and whatever is attached to it, like .xaml.cs, if you put any of your code or the logic inside it, that is called as the code behind logic. You don't put anything inside your code behind. Inside you create a new CS file and call it as ViewModel. Let's create a new class and call it main ViewModel. So now we have two view models, one view model. So you have a view and then a view model, and the another thing that's missing is the model itself. Model, view, view model. So model is basically to hold any kind of data. At present we don't need any model here. I will keep it simple. Let me remove them. Save here. If you want to do some operations on your data and you want to display them onto your UI, you will be sending that request and information to the ViewModel, and ViewModel does all the business operations. And the main responsibility of ViewModel is to maintain a state. It does the operations and then it maintains the states in its properties, and based upon the changes in the properties, the view will update itself. What do you need? You need a class, let's call it as main VM, and inside your view, let us try to keep some basic user details. I will quickly prepare stack panel, and I'll add a resource here. Window.resources, resource dictionary, style, target type, item control, items control, set property, items control, item panel, set is going to be items panel is, what was this? Okay. Yeah, items require an items panel template, and that will require a data template. Yeah, come on. Items panel template. If I press F12, that okay, let's directly cut and put it inside this item panel template. Okay. In the stack panel, I will create an items control and say the first one is text block and text is name, and second one is text box and text. Let's not put the text here, and this one grid dot column as well. Cool. So margin is equal to 10, and with this equal to 400. Let me split. Okay, so first one is a name, and second one, third one, name, or maybe let's keep it first name and last name, and this one maybe age, something like that. Okay, this is going to be simple, right? So let's keep it like this, and we need a button, and the button is going to be button height is equal to 30, width is equal to 120, content is equal to add. Once you add all those things, Let's put them all inside grid.row definitions. So in the first place, I will keep this height as R2, and in the second set, I will add a small, let's call it as list box maybe, or list view. And this one stays in grid.row is equal to 2 or 1, and list view. Let's try to add a few contents. Let's try to add a stack panel, text block, text is equal to, let me add f name, text block, text is equal to l name, text block, text is equal to h, and orientation is horizontal, and instead of this, I will use wrap panel now. Wrap panel doesn't have an orientation. By default, the orientation is vertical. In between, I will add some text blocks and put an hyphen. That's cool. Foreground is equal to red. That's too bad. Blue. I'll take this and put here. Cool. So this, whatever I have here, is going to be my content display part. That's fine. If I add one more, I should have something like this, but I need a margin is already there. That's fine. So let us just remove this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up a list box here. When user adds the first name, last name, age, and press add, it should be adding them here one by one. This is going to be very minimal because we are only going to see how to set up MVVM. So don't expect too many logics and validations and everything. This is just to show you how the UI and the view model could be separated along with a simple model, and then when you play with the data, like you can handle the logic and operations from the view model, and then your view gets updated. We are just going to see how it happens. List view is here, and this one is here. That's fine. This is enough. We already have spent more than 10 minutes setting it up. So without further ado, we need okay, we need some gaps here, right? So setter in the items panel, item control, let me add setter property margin value is equal to 10. Ooh, 10 is huge. So 5. Okay, 5 is fine, the gap is fine. And this button, I will add margin of 5, no, 10 comma 10, and this one horizontal alignment is equal right, so it looks like this, 5 comma 20. Cool. Okay, so what we have here is a simple class, a simple view where we are expecting to add some data, and when you press the add button, it should be adding it here inside your list view. Let us add some background to the list view so that we know that this is the area where we are going to do. Let's change the color here. Let me add the properties and list view brush background. Let's make it a little yellow. That looks fine. That looks fine. Save. Okay, fine. So now we have something here. This is fine. This is your view. The view is done. The next is the view model. For a view model, you can add. There are very important things. Two things. One is INotifyPropertyChanged, which is you can directly add them. It is present in. If I'm not wrong, this is in component model or using system.windows.input. Let's try INotifyPropertyChanged. Yeah, it's in component model. What happens here is notifyPropertyChanged is nothing but an event. What it does, in a nutshell, whenever you change some property, because your view model is a separate class, right? So whenever you make some changes, you are going to notify your UI that, hey, I have a property called XYZ and my property's value has changed, and then you raise that event. The view will subscribe to that event, and whenever the event is raised, view will then update its display or the value. So this is how the data binding works. To do this from scratch, you can set it up, and you need to create a method. Usually what I do is private void on property changed, and here string prop name, and whenever the property changed method is called, I call this property changed event and say if this is not empty, so something else is subscribed, this is the sender, a new property changed event tags with the property name. You will give the property name. So let's say this is how it works. So whenever you change the property, you need to raise an event with the property's name. Let it be there. We will find an elegant way of handling it, but at present we need one more thing. So in the MVVM part, we have the V part, view, and the VM part, view model. The only thing that's missing is the model part, MVVM. So the model is, let's say, person. So the person is the model here. What does your model need to do? Model also need to implement INotifyPropertyChanged. Let's go here. Using system.component model. The model, there is something, maybe if you would have known, there is usually POCO model and DTO model. POCO model is nothing but the plain old CLR object. So you will, I'm not sure if the definition is right or wrong. POCO model is something which will have the properties related to this person and the validations for this person. It will not do anything else. Whereas the DTO is data transfer object. So this is like you will have only the properties. You will not do any kind of validations inside. So these are all some sort of architectures or patterns that are used by people, and different engineers have their own implementations and their own, the companies itself. In the different companies that I have worked, the POCO model itself, people will be having a DTO model and calling it as POCO model. So it's, so now even here, whenever you notify property changed, you need to again implement whatever you implemented here. This on notify property change. The most common approach would be to create a base class where you implement this, and then you can use that base class everywhere. And before that, prop full string first name, and here what happens, whenever this property, you set a new property, you call this, let me just show you how the script on property changed, and the property is name of f name. Name of f name, and that's it. So what happens now is whenever your property f name changes, this will call this on property changed, and on property changed will then invoke this property changed event, and then your view will receive that information. Now what we do the same for our last name, right? If name in the selection, I'm changing it to last name. Cool. And here if name to last name here, and in this one we have the age, right? So let me cut this out. Propful string age and unmodified property changed. So the age has changed now. So now my Poco object or DTO object or whatever it is ready now. Public person. So the person object is ready. Now this person object needs a reference here. So we will do the propful person, and this is person. And whenever a person object itself changes, also we need to raise the same notify property changed, and we call it as name of person, and there we go. Okay, so now we have the main view model, and then we have the person, and everything is fine. The next thing that we need is command, because from the view, whenever you press this button, you need to raise a command. So the main view command is present in Windows input, so I will just add a command prop ICommand command add. So what it should do, it is expecting a command. So now pay close attention here. You are expected to create some sort of a command which implements ICommand, right? So let me create a new class called command. Public add command ICommand. When I implement this, just see, this also has something like can execute, and can execute is basically can we execute this command with this available parameter. Let us just say that whatever it is we can always execute. And how do you execute a command whenever you get some value? So this one, you have a parameter. I will add one more thing, public add command, and I will give main VM view model and execute. So the main VM, I will add it here, private main VM associated VM is equal to VM. And what we need to do when the execute is called, do something. Okay, in the main VM, I will just say this is equal to new add command with this one. So main VM. This is the main VM, right? This, why is it not? This is not available in the current context. Cool. So get set and public main VM, and now here we will have this command add is equal to new add command this here. Fine. In this one we need to add a method, private, not private, public void add person method. Okay, whatever is this current person, we will add them here. And let us now create a new prop full. There is something called observable collection. The observable collection is nothing but it's kind of like a list, but it will already come with a notify property changed event. Whenever you add some data to that list or observable collection, the UI will be notified using system.collections. Where is it? Collections dot now dot object model. Let me check. Observable collection. Yeah, it's here. Prop full observable collection of person, and let's call it as persons. Persons. Persons is nothing but here, and let's say persons is equal to new observable collection of persons. Okay, so we have it here. I see it. So that is fine. So far it's okay. And why is it having some error? What does it say? It says something is expected. Changed. No. Let me try to build it and see if there is any error. The object model. Okay, cool. So now we have a view model. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a base class. This base class is now going to hold, let's add a new class, and this base class, let's call it as base VM. So let's copy this notify property changed and put it inside. Okay, and let's copy them both and put them inside, and this one let it be protected so that the concrete classes or the classes that are extending it will also have access to this one. Next step is go here, remove them, and call it as base VM. Now let's do the same by going to the person and call it as base view model. Let's remove it. Cool. VM doesn't make sense because it will also be added to the models, not only to the VM. So let's name it as change notifier. Yes, so it gets changed to change notifier. Okay, so our person is now having this, and we are also having access to the on property changed, and main VM also has change notifier and it has access to that, and we have one person here. And let us do something. Whenever you press person, this particular person gets added to the observable collection. So persons dot add person, and then person is equal to new person. Simple. What I'm doing, whenever I press that command, I just add it to the collection, and then we're basically resetting it. Cool. So now what we have a model which is basically calling the notify property changed, and then we have view, and the code behind is not using anything, and the view model is here. So the view UI is here, which is very basic, and then your view model is also here. So what do you need to now do? You need to make this two connected, like you need to tell the view main view that the main VM is its data context. There are several ways of doing it. At present, the most elegant way is directly setting it up here, main view. So what I'm saying is the data context for this main view is the main view model. So here we are actually connecting the view with view model. That's fine. Go back, and go back to the main VM. And here now what we have done, we have a person which is temporary, and we have the persons collection, which first we will take care of this persons. Go to the main view, and this list view item source is equal to binding persons, and notify on source updated is equal to true updates. These things are basically telling the UI whenever the source is updated, notify. Basically you ask the UI to update itself. Let us leave it at present. Let's not do anything here. That's cool. We have a persons as item source. So list view has something called item template and data template, and this trap panel is going to be our data template. And what does it contain? The list of persons. Persons is what we are not binding it to the single person. Persons, each person will have a person object, and the person will contain f name, l name, age. So we have f name, we take it here, and the value we say binding f name is a binding l name. What we are doing is we are binding the value to the property, binding age. Okay, so we have binded everything, and then the next thing is we need to bind this values, this text values to another object, right? So we will do something, the person, and go back to main view, and the text first name text block text is equal to binding person dot f name. Let's copy this, paste it here, because person is the property present inside the main VM, and f name is the property present inside this object. Let's go here. This person, it could be anything, you know. Maybe we can call it as, let's call it as target person. So it'll be easy to differentiate between this class person and then the property name target person. So let's copy this target person and say target person dot first name, last name, and age. Okay, so now we have binded the properties here, and then the view the list view here, and the final thing that remains is our command add button command is equal to binding command add. Well, everything's set. Let's now try to run this without putting any breakpoints. Let's see if it works. First name ling, right? First name lingam r me. Let's start with age 30. Add. Very good. It doesn't work. Let's go back to our command here and add command. Let's get inside. Because we are not executing anything. Let's see if our command is coming here. Okay, we are not executing anything. So what we need to do, we need to call, that's the reason why I had this associated VM. Associated VM dot add person. Cool. Now it should work without this checkman. We don't need to check that cap. Singleton 32 add. It's added here, but what happened? We don't have the value yet. Cool. We need to identify y. Let's try again. Come here, come here. The target person, the value is there. The persons dot add is also here, so the persons already has one value. Let's try. So what happens now? This is there, but at first it was not available. Let's see. Okay, why did it work? Let me remove it here. It works. Well, that's fine. So now this is the basic setup of how you can call or add a MVVM to any project. But now if you would have seen, maybe we took more than 10-15 minutes to set up everything. The key things that you want to understand here is the most important things are two. The first and foremost thing is INotifyPropertyChanged. The purpose of INotifyPropertyChanged is you are, whenever a property's value gets changed, so it could be any property, it is an integer, boolean or a string, whatever it is, whenever a property's value gets changed, you are telling the UI, hey, my property has changed, and then the UI will then update its value based upon this. It's nothing but an event. The base concept is an event, and the event raises with the reference to this property. Let's say the property name is fname. If we go here, let's say the property name is fname, and you say that the fname has changed. The UI will then receive it. Since you are using the binding will already subscribe to the events. So here, when the fname changes, then the text box will receive it, and then the text box will then update its value. That's the way how the INotifyPropertyChanged works. And the thing about the second thing is this observable collection. The concept behind observable collection is whenever property gets added, so you have a person, whenever you add or remove a person, just remember only when added or removed, not for internal property changes. So you add a property or you remove a property, then that will be notified, but the person, when after you have added it and you change some value inside the person, then it will not be notified. So you need to understand the difference between INotifyPropertyChanged and observable. So that's how observable collection works. Only when you add or remove, it will notify. So INotifyPropertyChanged is whenever the value is modified, it will inform the view or raise the event. Observable collection is when an addition or a removal happens, it will raise the event. And the final thing is about your command, ICommand. So it is not possible, like when you have like several commands, more than generally in a very large enterprise level applications, you will have more than 10-20 commands. It is not possible to create a new command for like this. Like you cannot implement an ICommand interface and add all the values again and again. It is not possible. So you need to come up with an generic way or a base class or an common class which can be extended. Something like where is this? Like a change notifier. So you have a change notifier and you are calling it back in your main VM and also in the persons. Likewise, we need to come up with a common command. Generally, many libraries already have something like delegate command, relay command. So what it does is let's try to do something here quickly. New command, let's call it as relay command. So let's call public relay command, and you need two things. Remember, see here, one is a method which takes in an object, and it's a void method, so basically it's an action. You need an action which takes an object, object, and you call it as let's call it as action, or execute action, whatever. And second one is a function which takes an object and returns bool. So let's create a function. The first one is an object and the return is a bool, and say can execute action. Action. Okay, and we need to store them inside, like private. Let's copy this. Okay. Okay. Execute action is equal to execute action. Can execute action is equal to can execute action. And on can execute, you just raise can execute action dot invoke this parameter. What I'm doing is I'm just using delegate functions, delegate or lambda. It's not lambda, it's delegate. So basically, instead of why is it I should not have this like, okay, if can execute action is equal to null, then return true. Okay, and here execute action dot invoke parameter. Cool. Let me save this. And instead of having an execute command like the add command like this and passing in the view model, doing all those things, now we can easily just say new relay command which will take in an action. The action is add person, and this add person is supposed to take in an object, right? So action, and this one, let's say null. Cool. So let's try to now see. Let's delete our delete our add command. Where is our add command? Did I delete it already? No, it's here. Cool. So let me run this. Now this time what happens, instead of let's go to relay command here, that's it, execute. Okay, so let's add something like this, press add. Instead of creating a new creating a new class for each command like add command, delete command, whatever command you have, instead of creating a new command, you now have a generic command called relay command, which takes in two things, a method, a delegate, which should be called in case of for executing, and then if you want to handle the can execute, you will be calling that. So two things. Let's try to invoke, and it invokes it, and now it works as expected. There is some problem, so first time it doesn't add. I need to figure that out, but yeah, I did something. Okay, so this is the key idea. So now you know how to use relay command or create a relay command or a delegate command. and then the change notifier is for INotifyPropertyChanged. And now if you see in the code behind, you are not handling or controlling any kind of data from there. You are basically controlling your data from your UI, from your view model. You just add them, and the view model then analyzes this and then adds it back into the person's collection, which then updates the UI. So this is the whole MVVM setup. You have a model, and the model should implement INotifyPropertyChanged, and then you have a view. The view should have reference to the data context should have reference to the view model. And the third thing is MVVM. VM is finally your view model, which basically has notify property change in case the property changes, and then it also has your command, so in case you want to send some information from there. Now you have seen about this change notifier, relay command, and everything. Now what I will do, so far we have not used any we have not used any kind of external libraries. We try to keep everything simple by using the WPF or Microsoft's inbuilt libraries. Now what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to add a nuget package. I will not add a WPF. I will add a MVVM, Haley.MVVM. Let me install. The reason why I'm adding Haley.MVVM is it already contains a lot of libraries like the change notifier, relay command. It's called as delegate command there, and not only this, and several other functions and support activities are there, including different converters and IOC control and dependency injections and handling the images, changing the color of images, and much more. I have published several videos explaining about the Haley libraries. You can take a look at the other videos if you want to understand about Haley. But now what I will do, I will quickly show how whatever we have done so far can be done easily with the help of Haley. Okay, so Haley is getting added, extractions, blah blah blah. Don't get scared by all those libraries. You can easily migrate them to package reference, so everything turns into just one single package. So now all the external packages, whatever got added, is removed, and only one item is there now, which is Haley.MVVM. That's fine. So let me delete this relay command and this. Let me delete. Okay. And we'll go to main VM. Instead of change notifier, I will call, I have using Haley.models, using Haley.abstractions, using Haley.MVVM. Change notifier is there, and instead of relay command we have something called delegate command. And if you don't want to take any kind of input, you can just say delegate command of person. That's fine. And we will do the same to our person here. Change notifier works fine. And what else? We added two things and everything is fine. Now let us try to do this. Object reference is not set to an instance of an object. Good. So let's go back to our main VM and see new delegate command of add person. Let's not give null here. What is the first one? First one is the action method, and second one is your validate function. Let us just remove the null. Let's not give anything. Let's keep it like this and try to run. Okay, So this time what I will do, we had this problem whenever we add the person, the first person is always empty, right? So let me try to find out why. Because the first target person is always null. That's the reason why it happens like this. So target person is equal to new person. So it won't happen again. Initially the first person was null before, and after you add, you are setting up a new person. So that's the reason why the first person was always not getting added. Now that is removed, so the first person also will get added. Let's check that. Add, the first person is added, second person is added, and let me add the real values this time. 32. That's, there you go, the person got added. Now if you want to add a further more commands, like right click here and then delete them, and here we will add one more command, prop ICommand and command delete, and this time I'll just say new delegate command of object delete person. This delete person method is here, and let's try to see what we get here. I will add one more button here. I will call this button as delete, and here delete, and for the list view I will say selection mode selection mode is single, so you can at any time select only one item, and command parameter is equal to binding element name list view path is equal to selected item. So you select some item here and then you press this delete button, then the delete is called. Now this is quite easy, and since we know that this is a person, we can now directly say it is a person, and person start wait, if obj is equal to null, return, or else if persons dot contains, my son is shouting in the back, if person doesn't contain, then return, and persons dot remove object. Now I am pretty much sure that this will work without any issues. The context menu, I need to figure out why it didn't work before, but now it's like this. Let's do something. It needs to be in line with here, so instead of adding it like this, I will just say stack panel orientation is equal to horizontal, and horizontal alignment is equal to right, margin is equal to 5,20, and let's add it like don't do that. Let's add it like this, and the margin, let's say 5 and 5, and save it. So UI is also updated. If you delete now, the object is null, or should be null, so it should not do anything. And if you select it and delete, the object is not null, and you should delete it. Cool. Okay, let's try to add several items. Okay, let me delete the second one. Deleted. First one, deleted. Second one, deleted. Now you press delete, it doesn't do anything. You add, and you delete this. Okay, so let me quickly recap what we did so far. We are looking into MVVM, which is basically the model view model. For the model side, we have a person, and it is implementing INotifyPropertyChanged, and I'm using change notifier from Haley.MVVM. So you should already know what it does. It basically has an event, and whenever the property changes, it raises the event. And from the view side, MVV side, we are not having anything in the code behind, but only one thing, which is connecting the view with the view model. And from the UI side, you are binding to the data. So you give the names of the commands and the target properties where you want to bind them accordingly. And when you go to ViewModel, you have two things. One is the change notifier for the property itself, and then you have the commands, and the commands are delegate commands. So initially we saw how to create the delegate command itself, like the relay command, and now we are using a Haley.MVVM to just simplify our work. When you implement everything properly with a little bit of care and attention, you can easily incorporate MVVM inside your projects. So this is just a quick introduction into MVVM. I hope that makes some sense, and thank you for watching.